The judge bangs his hammer on the wooden desk, and the sound goes through me like electricity. I'm sitting here in this cold courtroom, Margaret Walsh, 67 years old, holding a yellow folder I've kept safe for 13 years. My heart is beating so fast I think everyone can hear it. Across from me sits my daughter Jessica in her fancy business suit, and next to her is her lawyer in a red tie pointing at me like I'm some kind of criminal. Her eyes are full of anger that I don't get. Or maybe I understand it perfectly. Her attorney, David Chen, is looking through papers like he's already won this case. "Your Honor," Jessica says, and her voice is shaking but strong. "My mother has kept my children for 13 years without my permission. This is kidnapping. I never told her she could take them." The word hits me like a punch. Kidnapping. That word goes straight to my chest and sticks there with all the other pain I've carried as a mother. I turn around and see my 3 grandkids, Michael, 20, Sarah, 18, and Lisa, 16, sitting in the 3rd row. Their faces are white and confused, like they're watching a movie they don't understand. Judge Robert Parker, a man with gray hair and tired eyes, looks at me over his glasses. "Mrs. Walsh, what do you say about these accusations?" My fingers squeeze the folder tight. Inside is proof of the truth I've been protecting for years, keeping it safe like a treasure or a wound that won't heal. "Your Honor," I say, and my voice comes out stronger than I expected. "I didn't kidnap anyone. I raised the kids my daughter left on my doorstep." "That's a lie!" Jessica jumps up from her seat. "I never left them. I had mental health problems. I needed temporary help." Her lawyer calms her down with his hand. "Your Honor, my client was in the hospital for severe depression after having her babies. She needed urgent medical help. Mrs. Walsh took advantage of that situation to keep the children and turn them against their real mother." I can feel the courtroom filling up with whispers. Some people are already nodding like they've decided who the victim is here. But I know the truth. I've lived it every single day for 13 years. The early mornings, the fevers, the homework, the hugs when they cried asking where their mom was. "Mrs. Walsh," the judge says in a softer voice, "I understand taking care of your grandchildren must have been hard, but if the biological mother wants custody—" "With respect, Your Honor," I interrupt, my voice coming out firmer than I thought it would. "There are things this court needs to know before you make any decision." I lift up the yellow folder and hold it high. It's a simple move, but I see Jessica's eyes go wide with what looks like fear. "I have documents here that will completely change this conversation." The judge leans forward. "What kind of documents?" "Proof of what really happened 13 years ago. Proof of why my daughter is here today, and it's not because of mother's love." My voice shakes a little, not from fear, but from emotion I can't name. Jessica turns pale. "Mom, please don't do this." "Do what, daughter? Tell the truth?" Attorney David Chen clears his throat. "Your Honor, Mrs. Walsh is trying to change the subject. Documents from the past don't change the fact that my client has legal rights to her children." "Actually," I say, looking straight into my daughter's eyes, "these documents explain exactly why we're here today. They explain why after 13 years of complete silence, not sending a single dollar for her kids' expenses, not even calling at Christmas, my daughter suddenly shows up with a lawyer." The silence in the room is heavy, like the air before a storm. I can hear my heart pounding, papers rustling as the lawyer nervously shuffles them, my grandchildren's rough breathing behind me. The judge looks at me closely. "Mrs. Walsh, are you saying there are hidden reasons for this lawsuit?" "I'm not suggesting anything, Your Honor. I'm stating facts." My eyes meet Jessica's, and I see in them the same look she had as a kid when I caught her doing something wrong. And it's all documented here. "Mom," Jessica whispers. Please think about what you're doing. I've had 13 years to think, I reply. 13 years of sleepless nights when Michael had a fever. 13 years of school meetings where I was the only family member there. 13 years waiting for a call from you that never came. Judge Parker gently taps his hammer. Mrs. Walsh, are you willing to present these documents as evidence in this case? I look at the folder in my hands. Inside are the letters Jessica wrote to me, photos I kept, receipts I saved, and something else. Something even my grandchildren don't know I have. Something that will change everything. Yes, Your Honor, I'm ready. The judge nods and checks his calendar. All right, Mrs. Walsh, but before looking at these documents, I'd like to hear your full story. Tell us what happened 13 years ago. I close my eyes for a moment and go back to that day that changed my life forever. It was a rainy Tuesday in October. I was in my small kitchen making tea to calm my nerves after a doctor's appointment where they told me my arthritis was getting worse. Then I heard knocking on the door. It was almost noon, I begin, my voice getting softer with the memory. Jessica showed up at my door with the 3 kids. Michael was 7 years old, Sarah was 5, and Lisa was barely 3. They were dirty, their clothes were wrinkled, and the little ones were crying from hunger. I look over at my grandchildren. Michael gives me a sad smile, like he's remembering pieces of that day. Sarah's eyes are watery, and Lisa, my little Lisa, is hugging herself the way she did when she was a scared child. My daughter came into my house like a hurricane, I continue. She had a plastic bag with some of the kids' clothes, all jumbled up, nothing clean. She said, Mom, I need you to keep them for a while, just a few weeks, until I sort out my problems. Jessica looks down. Her lawyer whispers something to her, but she doesn't respond. I know she remembers that day as clearly as I do. I asked her what problems, if she needed money, if something happened with the kid's father, but she just kept saying she'd be back soon. She gave each of them a quick kiss and left. The kids ran to the window shouting, Mommy, Mommy! But she had already gotten into a taxi and was gone. The silence in the room is total. I can feel people breathing slower, deeper, like they're holding something in. That night, Michael asked me when his mom was coming back. I told him soon. Lisa cried because she wanted her teddy bear that was left at Jessica's house. Sarah, my sweet Sarah, helped me make dinner with her little hands, like she understood it was now my job to keep everyone together. My voice breaks a little and I take a sip of water from the glass the court officer gives me. Days passed, then weeks. I didn't know where Jessica lived because she had moved. I had no phone number to reach her. The kids asked about her every day. Michael started wetting the bed at night. Sarah stopped talking for almost a month. And Lisa, my little Lisa, got a cough that wouldn't go away. I watch Jessica shift uncomfortably in her chair. Her hands are shaking as she plays with a ring on her finger. I decided to enroll them in the school near my house. I needed their documents, their birth certificates. I went to Jessica's old address, and the neighbors told me she had left the apartment without paying 3 months' rent. The landlady gave me a box of things my daughter had left behind, including some of the kids' papers. Judge Parker takes some notes. Did you try to report the situation to the authorities? Your Honor, I thought it was temporary. Jessica had problems before, but she had never completely left her children. I believed she would come back. Besides, what was I going to say? That my daughter left her children with me and wasn't coming back? At that moment, there was no crime. It was just a mother who left her children with their grandmother. I pause and look directly at Jessica. But months passed, then years. Michael turned 8 and asked if he could invite his mom to his party. I told him we'd try to find her. Sarah started first grade. When the teacher asked about her parents, she pointed to me and said, "This is my mom, Margaret." Tears threatened to fall, but I hold them back. It's not time to cry. It's time to remember. Expenses multiplied. My pension barely covered me alone. Suddenly I had to feed, clothe, and educate 3 children. I sold some jewelry I had saved. I took a job cleaning houses on weekends. A neighbor, Mrs. Helen Morris, helped me by watching the little ones when I went to work. The judge looks up when he hears the name Morris. Any relation to me? She's my sister, Your Honor, I reply, and she can testify about everything we went through those first few years. Jessica and her lawyer exchange worried looks. They hadn't expected this. When Lisa turned 5, we had a crisis. She got pneumonia and had to go to the hospital. The doctors asked for health insurance, parental permission, documents I didn't have. That's when I decided to go through the legal process to get temporary guardianship of the children. My voice gets firmer. I hired a lawyer with the few savings I had left. It cost me $800 I didn't have, but it was necessary. The lawyer tried to find Jessica to notify her about the guardianship process. We put notices in the newspaper, like the law requires. Nobody responded. Did you get legal guardianship? The judge asks. Yes, Your Honor. 10 years ago, this very court gave me legal guardianship of my 3 grandchildren. I have all the documents. For 3 years, the law required us to keep searching for the biological mother. She never showed up, never called, never sent a single dollar. Jessica stands up suddenly. I was sick. I had depression. I couldn't take care of them in that state. Please sit down, the judge orders firmly. Then he looks at me. Continue, Mrs. Walsh. The children grew up with me. Michael graduated from high school with honors. Sarah won poetry contests. Lisa learned to play guitar and started a band at school. They went to therapy when they needed it. I took them to the doctor for shots, to all their school events. I celebrated every birthday, every achievement, every important moment of their lives. I look at my grandchildren and see Michael nod with tears in his eyes. I never lied to them about their mother. I always told them she loved them, but couldn't take care of them at that time. I showed them pictures of her when they were babies. I saved every drawing they made for her, hoping she would come back. And they never had contact with her during all these years? The judge asks. Not once, Your Honor, until 2 months ago when she showed up at my door with her lawyer and a custody demand. The judge leans forward. 2 months? What changed after 13 years of total absence? I smile slightly because here comes the part Jessica doesn't want known. I raise the yellow folder. That answer, Your Honor, is in these documents. Judge Robert Parker reaches his hand toward me. Mrs. Walsh, please come forward and present the documents you mentioned. I stand up slowly, feeling my knees protest with arthritis, but my determination is stronger than any physical pain. I walk toward the stand with the yellow folder clutched to my chest. I can hear Jessica's nervous heels clicking against the wooden floor. Your Honor, Attorney David Chen says, standing up, I request that any document presented be examined by the defense before being admitted as evidence. Of course, the judge replies. Mrs. Walsh, hand the documents to the clerk to be reviewed by both parties. I open the folder carefully, like it's a treasure chest I've protected for years. My fingers tremble slightly, not from fear, but from the emotion that the truth is finally coming out. Inside are photographs, handwritten letters, receipts, and some folded papers that are the heart of this story. Let's start with this, I say, pulling out a stack of photographs tied with a red ribbon. These are photos I took the day Jessica left the children with me. The clerk takes the photographs and passes them to the judge, who looks at them one by one. His face gradually changes, becoming more serious. Describe what we see in these pictures, Mrs. Walsh. The first photo shows Michael in dirty, torn clothes. You can see his shoes have holes in the soles. The second is Sarah, who had dried food marks on her face and tangled hair. The third is Lisa, my little Lisa, who was wearing a diaper that clearly hadn't been changed in hours. Jessica covers her face with her hands. Her lawyer whispers something to her, but she shakes her head repeatedly. Your Honor, I continue, I took these photos because I wanted to document the condition the children were in when they arrived at my home. Not to use them against her, but because a nurse neighbor told me it was important to keep a record of everything. The judge passes the photos to Jessica's lawyer, who quickly looks at them and shows them to his client. I see my daughter close her eyes tight, like she's trying to erase those memories. Now, I say, pulling out a second group of documents, these are the letters Jessica wrote to me during the first 6 months after leaving the children. The judge takes the letters and immediately notices the handwriting. These are written in your daughter's own hand? Yes, Your Honor. I'd recognize her handwriting anywhere. I look at Jessica. Tell the judge what those letters said, daughter. Jessica stays silent, but her lawyer takes the letters and starts reading them. His face changes dramatically as he reads. Your Honor, I say with a clear voice, in the first letter, dated 3 weeks after she left the children, Jessica wrote to me that she had met a man named Marcus Thompson and that she was moving with him to another city. She asked me to take care of the children a little longer because her new partner didn't want immediate family responsibilities. The silence in the room is so deep you could hear a pin drop. All eyes are on Jessica, who has started crying silently. In the second letter, I continue, she told me she was pregnant with Marcus's child and that she couldn't come back for the children because he had threatened to leave her if she brought baggage from the past into their new life. Pregnant? The judge asks with surprise. Yes. Your Honor, my daughter had another child with Marcus Thompson, a boy who is now 12 years old and lives with them. A child she could raise because it was convenient for her new relationship. Michael, Sarah, and Lisa exchange shocked looks from their seats. This information is new to them. I never told them they had a younger brother because I didn't want to hurt them more than they already were. In the third letter, my voice gets harder, Jessica asked me to sign some papers, officially giving up any claim to her so she could start a new life without legal complications. She offered me $500 for the expenses I had with her children up to that point. Attorney David Chen turns pale. This information was clearly not part of the story his client told him. And did you sign those papers? The judge asks. No, Your Honor. I wrote back telling her I didn't want her money, but if she really wanted to disappear from our lives, she should do it completely. I told her not to contact us again until she was truly ready to be a mother. I pull another document from the folder. This is her response to my letter, the last communication we had in 13 years. The judge reads the document, and his face hardens noticeably. Mrs. Walsh, can you read aloud what this letter says? I take the paper with trembling hands, but my voice comes out firm and clear. Mom, it's fine. I won't bother you anymore. Take good care of the children because I have my own family now. If anyone ever asks, tell them their mom had to go far away for work. I don't want them to suffer anymore. Sincerely, Jessica. Tears stream down my grandchildren's cheeks. Michael rises from his seat like he wants to come to me, but Sarah stops him, taking his arm. Your Honor, I say, putting the letter away. For 13 years, I respected that decision. I never looked for my daughter. I never tried to contact her. I raised her children with love, with the few resources I had, hoping that someday she would grow up and come back for the right reasons. And why do you believe she has returned now? The judge asks. I smile sadly as I pull the last document from the folder. Because 3 months ago, Your Honor, my brother Thomas Walsh, Jessica's uncle who lived in Texas and had no children, passed away. The judge leans forward with renewed interest. And what does that have to do with this case? My brother, Your Honor, left a big inheritance to each of his grandchildren. $50,000 in total for Michael, Sarah, and Lisa. Jessica sobs louder, and her lawyer looks like he's thinking about quitting the case. But the inheritance, I continue with a firm voice, can only be claimed by the children if they're under the custody of a direct relative, meaning their mother or their grandmother, and I, as their current legal guardian, had already started the procedures for them to access that money when they turned 21. The judge looks at me closely. Are you suggesting that Mrs. Jessica Walsh returned only to get access to her children's inheritance? I pull the final paper from the folder. It's a copy of a legal document that was hard to get. Your Honor, this is a private report I paid for about my daughter's activities in recent months. It shows that exactly 2.5 months ago, she hired the services of attorney David Chen and started investigating my brother's inheritance. Jessica's lawyer stands up suddenly. Objection. That investigation is private and illegal. It's completely legal, I reply calmly. I hired a licensed private investigator after my daughter suddenly showed up at my door with legal threats. I had every right to protect my grandchildren. The judge taps his hammer. Order in the court. He looks at me with a look that mixes respect and curiosity. Mrs. Walsh, is there anything else in that folder the court should know? I look at the folder, which now feels much lighter, but I know it still has the most important secret of all. Yes, Your Honor, there's something else. Something even my grandchildren don't know yet. Judge Robert Parker adjusts his glasses and looks at me with an intensity he hadn't shown before. Mrs. Walsh, what else does that folder contain that you consider relevant to this case? My fingers search for the last document hidden at the bottom of the yellow folder. It's a sheet folded several times, yellow with time, but containing the most important words of this story. However, before showing it, I know there's something I must do. Your Honor, before showing this last document, I'd like the court to hear directly from my grandchildren. I believe it's only fair that they express their own opinion about this situation. Jessica sits up in her seat with hope in her eyes. Her lawyer, David Chen, nods quickly. Your Honor, my client agrees. The minors have the right to express their preferences. The judge considers the request. All right, Michael Walsh, please come to the stand. My oldest grandson stands up slowly. At 20 years old, Michael is a tall, thin young man with his grandfather's smart eyes and the sensitivity he got from our family. He walks to the stand with careful steps, like each movement needs a conscious decision. Michael, the judge says in a gentle voice, I understand this situation must be very hard for you. I want you to know you can speak freely. Do you remember your biological mother? Michael swallows and looks briefly at Jessica before answering. Yes, Your Honor. I have some vague memories. I remember there was a lot of confusion at home. I remember that sometimes there wasn't food and that my Grandma Margaret would show up with bags from the grocery store. I remember the day we got to her house and she bathed us, gave us clean clothes, and made us chicken soup. And how do you feel about your mother's absence during these years? Michael closes his eyes for a moment. Your Honor, for a long time, I was angry. I didn't understand why my mom didn't come back. My school friends had parents who picked them up, who went to their soccer games, who helped them with homework. I had my Grandma Margaret, who worked 2 jobs to support us and still never missed a school meeting. I watched Jessica cry silently, but Michael continues with a maturity that breaks my heart. When I turned 15, I stopped being angry. I understood that my grandma had given up her peace of mind, her health, and her savings for us. I understood that she had no obligation to raise us, but she did it because she loves us. And now that your biological mother has returned requesting custody, how do you feel? Michael looks directly at Jessica. Mom, if I can call you that, I'm glad to know you're doing well. I'm glad to know you were able to overcome your problems, but I can't pretend these 13 years didn't happen. I can't pretend it doesn't hurt to know you formed another family while we grew up wondering what we did wrong. The silence in the room is absolute. Jessica sobs louder. Where would you like to live, Michael? The judge asks. Your Honor, I'm already of legal age. I can legally make my own decisions, but if my answer can help protect my younger sisters, then the answer is clear. I want to stay with my grandma Margaret. She's the one who raised us, who loves us no matter what, who never left us. Michael returns to his seat and the judge calls Sarah. My 18-year-old granddaughter walks to the stand with the grace that has always been part of who she is. But I can see the tension in her shoulders. Sarah, you're also of legal age. What's your perspective on this situation? Sarah takes a deep breath before speaking. Your Honor, I have some clearer memories than Michael because I was a little older when we came to live with my grandma. I remember my biological mom cried a lot. I remember that sometimes she would stay in bed all day and we had to take care of ourselves. I was sick, Jessica shouts from her seat. I had depression after having my babies. The judge silences her with a stern look. Please let the young lady finish. Sarah continues, I understand you were sick, Mom, but I also remember the day we got to Grandma Margaret's house. For the first time in a long time, someone asked us if we had eaten. Someone read us stories before bed. Someone told us everything would be okay. Tears run down my cheeks as I listen to my granddaughter's words. Grandma Margaret took us to the psychologist when we had nightmares. She signed us up for activities so we wouldn't feel different from other kids. When I was 14 and was diagnosed with juvenile diabetes, she learned about nutrition, about glucose measurement, about everything she needed to take care of me. The judge takes notes as Sarah speaks. And regarding staying with your biological mother or your grandmother, Your Honor, my biological mom is a stranger to me. I know she shares my blood, but my grandma Margaret shared my childhood, my teenage years, my fears, and my dreams. The decision is easy. Finally, the judge calls Lisa. My youngest granddaughter, 16, walks to the stand with the determination that has always been part of who she is. She looks the most like me physically, but she has a rebellious spirit that reminds me of Jessica when she was young. Lisa, you're a minor, but your opinion is very important to the court. What do you remember about your life before coming to live with your grandmother? Lisa looks at Jessica with a look I can't figure out. Your Honor, I was very little, but I remember things. I remember being hungry. I remember crying and no one coming. I remember the smell of the house where we lived, a smell of sadness and being left alone. Jessica folds in on herself like her youngest daughter's words were physical hits. But I also remember, Lisa continues, the first day at Grandma Margaret's house. I remember she gave me a warm bath and put me in clean pajamas that smelled like fabric softener. I remember she made me warm milk with honey before bed and sang me a lullaby. Would you like to get to know your biological mother better? The judge asks. Lisa thinks for a moment. Your Honor, I'm not going to lie. I'm curious to meet the woman who gave me life, but I'm also scared. Scared that she'll leave again. Scared that her promises are like the ones she made 13 years ago. And where do you feel safest? With my Grandma Margaret, Your Honor. She has never failed me, never lied to me. When I asked her why my mom left, she didn't make up pretty stories. She told me the truth, that sometimes adults make hard decisions and that she loved me enough to stay. Lisa returns to her seat and the judge looks at me again. Mrs. Walsh, your grandchildren have been very clear in their preferences. Is there anything else the court should know before making a decision? I look at the yellow folder in my hands and then at my 3 grandchildren. They've been brave in speaking their truth. Now it's my turn to be brave with mine. Yes, Your Honor, there's something else. Something that will completely change the perspective of this case. I pull the last document from the folder. It's a sheet I've folded and unfolded so many times that the crease lines are permanent. This is a document I found 2 years ago among the things Jessica left in her apartment, a document she herself wrote and signed. Jessica turns as pale as a ghost. Her lawyer leans toward her, but my daughter shakes her head repeatedly. What kind of document, Mrs. Walsh? A voluntary giving up of parental rights, Your Honor, written in my daughter's own hand, signed and dated 3 days after she left the children with me. Judge Robert Parker stands up suddenly, his face transforming from professional curiosity to complete shock. A voluntary giving up of parental rights? Mrs. Walsh, are you sure about what you're saying? Completely sure, Your Honor. I reached the document toward the court clerk. This paper was among the things Jessica left in her apartment. The landlady gave it to me along with photographs and other personal documents my daughter left behind. Jessica stumbles in her seat like she's about to faint. Her lawyer, David Chen, takes the document with shaking hands, and his face loses all color as he reads it. "This can't be real," he mumbles. "Read it out loud, please," the judge orders. The lawyer clears his throat and starts reading in a choked voice. "I, Jessica Walsh, 26 years of age, hereby voluntarily give up all my rights as mother of Michael Walsh, 7 years old, Sarah Walsh, 5 years old, and Lisa Walsh, 3 years old. I acknowledge that I do not have the emotional, economic, or psychological ability to raise them properly." The silence in the room is so deep, you can hear everyone's rough breathing. My grandchildren look at each other with faces showing confusion and pain. "Continue," the judge says in a grave voice. "I fully authorize my mother, Margaret Walsh, to make all legal, medical, and educational decisions related to my children. I give up any right to visit them, contact them, or claim them in the future. This decision is final and cannot be changed. Signed, Jessica Walsh, dated October 15th, 2011. Jessica breaks into hysterical sobs. "I was crazy. I didn't know what I was writing. I was mentally ill." The judge bangs his hammer repeatedly. "Order. Mrs. Walsh, do you have witnesses that this document was written voluntarily by your daughter?" "Yes, Your Honor. The landlady of the building where Jessica lived, Mrs. Paula Sterling, can testify that my daughter asked her for paper and a pen to write an important letter 3 days after leaving the children. She can also confirm that Jessica was awake and thinking clearly during those days." Attorney David Chen whispers urgently to his client, but Jessica continues to sob uncontrollably. "Furthermore," I continue, "there's something else the court should know. Something I discovered only 2 weeks ago that explains why my daughter came back exactly now." All eyes are on me. I can feel the tension in the room get stronger. "Your Honor, I hired the private investigator not only to learn about my daughter's recent movements, but also to fully understand her current situation. What we discovered is revealing." I pull a small folder from my purse. Jessica and her partner Marcus Thompson are facing a severe money crisis. 6 months ago, Marcus lost his job. 4 months ago, they got an eviction notice from their home. 3 months ago, exactly when they learned about my brother's inheritance, they started procedures to get custody of my grandchildren. Jessica lifts her head, her eyes red from crying. "Mom, please, let me finish, daughter." My voice is firm but not cruel. "The investigator also discovered that you and Marcus have been living on loans and credit cards. You owe more than $30,000 in debt." The judge reviews the documents I've provided. "And you believe that your grandchildren's inheritance is the solution they're looking for to their financial problems?" "I don't believe it, Your Honor. I know it." I look directly at Jessica. "Because a week ago, my daughter called me on the phone for the first time in 13 years. The surprise in the room is obvious. Even my grandchildren look at me in shock because I hadn't told them about this call. "And what did she say in that call?" the judge asks. "She told me she had grown up, that she had overcome her problems, and that she wanted to get her children back. When I asked her why after so long, she said she had been saving money to offer them a better life." I pause. Then I asked her about my brother's inheritance. There was a long silence, and then she said, "Mom, that money belongs to my children. I just want to make sure they get it when the time is right." "And what did you reply?" I told her that her children already had access to that inheritance through me, their legal guardian, that the money was safe in a trust fund until each of them turned 21. That's when her tone changed completely. Jessica covers her face with her hands, knowing what's coming. She told me that as their biological mother, she had more right to manage that inheritance than I did. She told me she had talked to a lawyer and could legally fight for custody. She threatened me, Your Honor. The judge leans forward. How did she threaten you? She told me that if I didn't voluntarily transfer custody and control of the inheritance, she would accuse me of kidnapping. She told me she had witnesses who could say that I had intentionally turned the children against her. She told me that a judge would always favor a biological mother over a grandmother. Michael suddenly stands up from his seat. Grandma, why didn't you tell us she threatened you? Because I didn't want you to worry more than necessary, I reply softly. And because I knew the truth would come out at the right time. The judge bangs his hammer. Young man, please sit down. Then he looks at me. Mrs. Walsh, do you have that phone conversation recorded? No, Your Honor, but I have something better. I smile slightly. After that call, my daughter sent me several text messages where she repeated her threats. Messages that are saved on my phone and that I've printed for the court. I pull out the message printouts and hand them to the clerk. The judge reads them in silence, his face getting more serious with each message. Can you read some of these messages to the court? The judge asks. I take the printouts and read in a clear voice. Message from July 18th. Mom, think it over carefully. I'm the biological mother and any judge will side with me. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. I continue. Message from July 20th. I've been talking to my lawyer. He says what you did could be considered kidnapping. You could go to jail. And the last message, my voice gets firmer, from July 22nd. Mom, if you give me custody voluntarily, we can reach an agreement on the inheritance. 50-50. You keep half for taking care of them. I keep half because I'm their mother. But if you force me to go to trial, I get everything. The judge places the documents on his desk and looks directly at Jessica. Mrs. Walsh, do you confirm that you sent these messages? Jessica sobs, unable to say a word. Her lawyer looks completely defeated. Your Honor, I say softly, I want to make it clear that I'm not looking for revenge against my daughter. I understand that she went through hard times when she was young. I understand that early motherhood and mental health problems can lead to desperate decisions. I look at Jessica with sadness, but also with determination. But what I cannot accept is that after 13 years of total absence, after having formally given up her rights as a mother, after having formed a new family and completely forgotten about these children, she now comes back only because money is involved. What do you request from the court? The judge asks. That my permanent legal guardianship over my minor grandchildren be confirmed, that my daughter's custody demand be completely rejected, and that a restraining order be issued preventing Jessica from approaching the children unless they, when they're of legal age, voluntarily decide to have contact with her. Jessica shouts from her seat. You can't take my children away from me forever. I turn to her with a look that mixes pain and firmness. Daughter, you yourself gave them up 13 years ago. I'm not taking anything from you, I'm just protecting what you left behind. The judge declares a 30-minute break to review all the documentation presented. The courtroom partially empties, but I stay seated in my place, holding my purse against my chest like it's a protective shield. My grandchildren come to me, surrounding me with their arms in a silent hug that speaks more than 1,000 words. Grandma, Lisa whispers, why did you never tell us she had given us up in writing? Because I wanted you to have the chance to form your own opinion about your mother when you were old. Enough to understand, I reply, stroking her hair. I didn't want you to grow up with hatred in your hearts. Michael squeezes my hand. But you lied to us all these years when you told us maybe she would come back. I didn't lie, my love. There was always the possibility that she would grow up and come back for the right reasons. I held on to that hope for a long time. I look to where Jessica is sitting with her lawyer, talking in desperate whispers. But when she called me a week ago, I knew immediately that she hadn't come back for you. She had come back for the money. Sarah sits next to me. What's going to happen now, Grandma? I don't know, my child, but I know we've told the truth. And that's all we can do. During the break, I watched Jessica slowly walk toward us. Her lawyer tries to stop her, but she ignores him. She walks with hesitant steps, like each foot is a mountain to climb. Mom, she says with a broken voice, can we talk privately? Jessica, I begin. and my voice trembles like when she was a child and had done something wrong. I know I made terrible mistakes, but I've changed. I've really changed. Have you changed, Jessica, or do you just need money? My question is direct, but not cruel. After so many years, I've earned the right to brutal honesty. She looks down. Both are true. Yes, I need the money, but I've also missed my children all these years. You've missed them? My voice rises slightly. Jessica, you had 13 years to miss them. 13 years to call, to write, to send a postcard at Christmas. 13 years to ask how they were, if they needed anything, if they remembered you. I was scared, she whispers. I was scared they would hate me for leaving them. Then why now? Why, after 13 years of fear, do you suddenly have the courage to fight for them in court? Jessica leans against the window like she needs physical support to continue the conversation. Because Marcus told me that if I didn't try to get my children and their inheritance back, he would leave me. He told me he couldn't stay with a woman who had given away $150,000.